I'd like to call our board meeting, this evening to order. Roll call, please.
Dino Adair, Becky Atkinson,
Here.
Steve Jones,
Here.
Mike Richard,
Here.
James Higginbotham,
Here.
Wilton C. Walton.
Here.
James Ted David. Here. Here. Yeah.
I'd like us all to stand for prayer and then the pledge. So we were so inspired by a student that came from Ross Elementary. And so I felt like we would proceed with something that she brought to the prayer portion of our meeting. And we're going to start with a scripture reading, and it's from Ephesians 4:16. From him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. And that being said, I'd like for us all to say the Our Father together. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. And then at this time, we are very blessed and fortunate to have the 4-H group from Egan Elementary with their sponsor to lead us in our pledge. So we're going to invite those students to come forward and do that. And you may come up to the microphone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the group also would like to share a few things about their program at this time. So if y'all like to come on up to the microphone and do that.
I'm Ian Lacombe, the president of our 4-H club.
Hi, my name is John Paul, and I'm Sergeant at Arms. Hi, my name is Wyatt, and I'm a 4-H member. Hi, my name is Brooke May. I'm vice president. Hi, I'm Michelle Crater, and I'm a 4-H member. I'm Madeline Fuge, and I'm a 4-H leader. Hi, I'm Annalise, and I'm the 4-H chairman.
Good evening, and thank you for having our Egan 4-H club here this evening. 4-H helps to guide us to be good leaders in society and role models for our peers. 4-H provides us with many opportunities to work together as a school club, as well as with our community. We have completed various service projects such as community food drives, in which we collected canned goods. Also, we raised money to reward all of our teachers for their hard work and effort with cookies and teas. We are also currently collecting Pop Tops, which will be donated to St. Jude's. We have many members that show animals, participate in shooting sports, attend the sewing club, and take advantage of all the extracurricular activities that 4-H offers to our student body. We have competed in many of the 4-H parish-wide competitions, such as the pumpkin decorating contest and duct tape contest. Throughout the year, we have thoroughly enjoyed our monthly 4-H meetings, and that have helped us grow in communication, public speaking, leadership, and citizenship. We will continue to grow as leaders for our community as well as our nation. Thank you.
Francis Reagan Miller and myself would like to present to you each of the certificate of appreciation for participating in our regular school board meeting. for the month of March. So come on up and she's going to give you, I'd like to shake your hand. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Keep these for your record book, for your great record book. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh, forget my procedure. And I have to say, you're an outstanding president. You let all of your other people go first because you got their back. And we'd like to recognize Ms. Kendall LaCombe. Please stand up. Would you like to say anything about your group?
They're a great group to work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate it. Moving on to action items 2.1. Approve the minutes of the February 6, 2023 regular session meeting, the minutes of February 13th, 2023 special session, and the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee and Personnel, Insurance, and Curriculum Committee meetings dated February 27th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve these?
If there's no changes, I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the February 6th, February 13th, and February 27th meetings.
Do I have a second? I second that. It has been moved by Mr. Higginbottom and seconded by Ms. Miller. Is there any discussion? The items? No? Any comments from people from the audience? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2.2. Consider approval to pay bus driver privatization costs in one lump sum payment. Do I have a motion? Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Higginbottom. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Is there any discussion from the board? Mr. Richard, would you have some comments about this?
Yes, ma'am. This is an annual item. As you know, the school system made some decisions several years ago to basically privatize transportation services as each, and it wasn't a one-time thing. It's being done through attrition. And as Acadia Parish School Board employees that serve in the role of bus driver decide to retire, resign, separate from the system, there's an annual cost. The route is privatized, basically, and contracted out. And there's an annual cost per bus driver to ELSERS, which is the Louisiana School Employees Retirement System. We can't privatize a position without paying the unfunded accrued liability portion of each one of those public employee positions. And what you have before you tonight is a number related to 6 positions that board drivers, Acadia Parish School Board drivers, have either retired, resigned, moved on. They're separated from our school system. And the cost to privatize those positions is right at $270,647.80. The retirement system offers us to pay that penalty or that amount to cover the unfunded accrued liability pension obligation in a one lump sum payment, or they offer to finance it for us over 10 years. It's much more frugal for the board to pay the money in a one-time payment, and that's what we're suggesting tonight. Yes, sir.
Mr. Jones?
Is that in our budget?
Last year, we brought, positions for a total of $360. Was, it's actually about $100.
Good, thank you.
Do you have a comment, Mr. Higginbottom?
How many, that's all we have.
This would bring us down to mid-teens, if I'm not mistaken, less than 20,
Do you know?
19.
19? Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Are there any questions or comments from anyone from the audience? If there's no questions or comments, we would like to vote on this item. All in favor of approval to pay the bus driver privatization cost in one lump sum payment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2.3. Consider approval to purchase property adjacent to Evangeline Elementary. Do I have a motion?
Also move.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Seymour and second by Ms. Miller to consider approval to purchase the property adjacent to the Evangeline Elementary School. Are there any discussion? Is there any discussion from board members? Mr. Richard, would you like to comment on this?
I think all the board members are aware that at our previous meetings, we had some discussions with the property owner about rental of the property and moving forward with getting an appraisal to possibly purchase the property. The board can't, as a governmental entity, we're bound to an appraisal. We can't go above fair market value, and we do have an appraisal that came in at a reasonable price that the property owner agrees to move forward with in regards to fair market value. And we're asking for your approval tonight.
Mr. Jones?
It has been surveyed. We know exactly what we're buying. Okay, and it takes care of everything that we need as far as the driveway and everything. Takes care of it all. Good.
Is there any other discussion? Is there any comments from people from the audience? Okay. Is there any other discussion about it? Mr. Seymour?
I wish we wouldn't have had to do that, but our hands are kind of tied.
And I do feel that we need to secure the property so that it's safe parking for our school staff. And I think they possibly use it for parents at times. I'm not sure, but,
We're gonna be able to use it for different things now.
and then,
It's ours.
and we'll be able to say what happens on the property and what cannot happen on the property. So, okay, again, is there any other comments from the board? Okay, all in favor of approving to purchase the property adjacent to Evangeline Elementary, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition to purchasing the property? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2.4. Consider approval of Crowley Kindergarten HVAC, North Crowley Elementary HVAC, Crowley Middle School HVAC bid of $657,000 and Crowley High Restroom Building and Ag Addition bid of $679,800 and Central Rain Kindergarten Restroom Building bid of $315,700. Rain High Weight Room bid of $512,000 and received from ESSER 3 projects. Do I have a motion for approval?
Also move.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. David and seconded by Mr. Jones. Is there any discussion from members of the board? Would you like to elaborate, Mr. Richard?
Sure. We have Mr. Roland Lalou with ADG here tonight. We have Mr. Bill Ackle, our architect, here tonight to be able to answer any specific questions. These are all ESSER-3 COVID mitigation funded projects that are tied to meeting the federal requirements and state requirements to move forward with COVID mitigation projects at the campuses noted. And we're asking for your approval tonight to get the ball rolling on these projects. Keep in mind, all funds expire September of 2024. So it's important that we continue to move forward. Some projects that came in under bid or were not suitable and met bid requirements, we'll deal with those a little bit later down the line on the agenda. But from a big picture perspective, we feel like we have at least one more opportunity to rebid items before we have to take a look at really redoing some of these projects that didn't come in within budget or were not properly within bid form requirements. And hopefully that makes sense to the board tonight, that we're trying to move as fast, as expediently as we can, while trying to be equitable for all of our students and all of our schools with COVID mitigation dollars dedicated by the board to capital outlay projects.
Again, are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Seymour?
Bill, Air Plus, they only handle heating and cooling, or they do more things?
Air Plus. Air Plus, mechanical plumbing, contractor. They do commercial buildings, they do healthcare, they do, but they don't do general contracting. That's, if there's something like concrete need or something, they're gonna go with, subcontractors and contract them. This is mechanical, just mechanical plumbing. They are an electrical contractor to do the work for the HVAC equipment.
I'm just not familiar with what all they do. Thank you.
Mr. Rowland, the two bids that either going to be rebid or redesigned, you have ideas of what's going to be happening on those so that we can get those rolling pretty quick?
Yes, sir. Focus to already. I know it's not in this subject right now, but whatever it is before, but yes, we I already spoke to contractors to get this back in the market. To want to help get back in the budget, we do move things about the base bid into alternates. That way we can get try to get the base bids in budget.
And what about you, Bill?
We have Thursday single bids coming in next quarter. Alternate today for that project. So we'll have to put that alternate Thursday. There. Probably look at what we can do in hybrid. That's all.
Type of buildings that's being made right here, is that basically the cheapest that we can go, or can that be changed to make it a cheaper building and still do the same thing, or?
Building right now, we have a metal frame, seating area, the metal outside. Right now, with the research, try to get there are some items we can do. We'll have to look at it and see if that's going to save a whole lot of money or bang for the dollar. Do you really want to go that economic?
Or resize them?
You could probably resize. There are some other issues we can look at it, and right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Higginbottom?
On all of the
multi-purpose buildings are the ones we've been, all of them are gonna come up with, brick,
Outside the building.
right?
Up to about 4 feet. Just enough for having long more the median several feet up the building. Then after that goes up middle. But inside, they're all are CMU block all the way up to where there.
So looking back at the item 2.4, is there any other discussion from board members about questions about approving Crowley Kindergarten, North Crowley, Crowley Middle, Crowley High, Central Rain, and Rain High? Is there any questions or comments from people from the audience? Are we required to have a roll call vote on that or no? No?
We
Okay,
have a motion and a second on
We-
the floor.
we do have it has been moved and seconded, so we can move forward to vote. All in favor of approving item 2.4, approving Crowley Kindergarten, North Crowley, Crowley Middle, Crowley High, Central Rain, and Rain High projects. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All voted in favor, so motion carries. Moving on to item 2.5. Item 2.5 is to consider rejecting South Crowley Elementary School's ESSER 3 federally funded project bid. No qualified bids were received, and to authorize re-advertisement. Do I have a motion?
I move that we re-advertise, reject and re-advertise for that bid.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Miller and seconded by Ms. David. At this time, we'd like to give our board members an opportunity to talk about that or ask questions, or do you want to speak about that first, Mr. Richard?
Basically, on this item, we did not receive a formal bid that complied with bid law. Thus the need to re-advertise the project. And we talked to Mr. Rowland with ADG to get the ball rolling on that project. We need the board's authorization to reject whatever we did receive and reauthorize us to move forward.
Are there any questions or comments from people from the board, from members of the board? I'd like to see it go, we can try to get this done quickly so that we can get this on the books as a project that needs to get addressed. Are there any questions or comments from people from the audience?
Superintendent was just saying, so we're gonna, like I said, I spoke to Mr. Ledoux earlier, we're gonna get the advertisement to the paper hopefully by the end of this week, which is gonna be out next Thursday, out to bid to the contractors. So that's basically as fast as we can get it done.
Okay.
Get it in this week, it's gonna be, both this one and the next item that's gonna be out on bid next week.
Okay,
And there's a 30-day, obviously 30-day process.
yes, sir. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? The audience or any board members? So I'd like to call a vote. It's been moved and seconded to consider rejecting South Crowley Elementary School's ESSER 3 federally funded project bid and to authorize re-advertisement. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion was all voted unanimously, so it carries. Moving on to subject item 2.6. Consider rejecting Church Point Middle School's ESSER 3 federally funded project bid because it is over budget and authorize re-advertisement. Do I have a motion? It's been moved by Mr. Higginbottom and seconded by Mr. Richard. Are there any, would you like to elaborate on that first, Mr. Richard?
Sure. This item came in over budget. The budget allocated based on per pupil allocations came in at $234. The bid on this specific project came in right at $563,000. So thus the need to ask the board to reject the existing bid and modify the project and rebid, and we need your approval to move forward.
Are there any comments from the board or questions? Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, if there are no questions or comments, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor of rejecting Church Point Middle School's ESSER 3 federally funded project bid and authorize re-advertisement. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2.7.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may offer a comment, now that we've worked through these ESSER-funded project agenda items, obviously Ward 1, the Crowley area schools, and Ward 2 have come in. Here we go.
No, there.
In addition to the Church Point HVAC project, which was grouped in that initial round of bids. This hopefully is an example of how we're going to try to move forward as additional bids come in by ward. If they're over budget, under budget, need to be rebid, projects need to be modified. I made a comment earlier tonight that at some point, I feel like we get one more bite at the apple to re-advertise a project and try to sharpen our pencils and put heads together as a board to look at these projects, because if we can't, obviously we can't continue to rebid and rebid and rebid. We're going to run out of time. So I appreciate the board members' cooperation moving forward as we have small group meetings to talk about how to move forward and suggestions from board members on how to modify some of these projects in order to spend the dollars most efficiently, and open to suggestions on some of these projects as to how we can get the ball rolling faster if they coming in over budget. I think we'll have a good idea after Church Point comes in this week, and then IOTA the following week, and Ward 5 bids will be received on March the 30th. That's the last set of formal bids that will be going out. And as you realize tonight, we're reauthorizing rebidding of some projects. So it'll be an ongoing conversation between the board and the staff and Mr. Ackle and Mr. Rowland to keep the ball moving in the right direction. And I appreciate everybody's cooperation. Thank you.
Moving on to item 2.7, consider approval to declare 19 buses and 10 vehicles as surplus property and give authority to the superintendent to take any legal action necessary in order to effectuate the sale, removal of the 19 buses and 10 vehicles. Do I have a motion?
Consider approval to declare the 19 buses and 10 vehicles as surplus property.
It's been moved by Mr. Higginbottom and seconded by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion by board members? Have anything you'd like to say, Mr. Richard?
Yes, ma'am. It's been quite a while since we've had a salvage sale, and by declaring these items formally by the board, we can move forward. We haven't had one since pre-COVID. So obviously there's a need to remove these items from our inventory list. And the salvage sale will occur on Thursday of this week, if I'm not mistaken, from 9 to 2. And we appreciate your cooperation as we move forward.
Any comments or questions from anyone from the audience? Again, is there any questions or comments from people from members of the board? All in favor of approval to declare the 19 buses and 10 vehicles as surplus property and give authority to the superintendent to take the legal action necessary in order to effectuate the sale or removal of the 19 buses and 10 vehicles, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Moving on to item 2.8, consider conducting the regular session meeting of April 3rd, 2023 at the Rain Civic Center in Rain, Louisiana. Do I have a motion?
I so move that the regular session meeting of April 3rd, 2023 at the Rain Civic Center in Rain, Louisiana. And I second the motion.
It's been moved by Ms. David and seconded by Ms. Miller. Is there any discussion from the board members? Yes, sir. When we met with Mr. Richard, Ms. David and myself, in talking about board agendas, and we were he brings us up to date on impending and upcoming items that, are happening in the future, so we can kind of get in mind how we're going to look at that. I actually made a suggestion to Mr. Richard and Ms. David that we consider moving that to the Rain Civic Center, because this is the meeting where we recognize our students of the year from all the schools. And it's a lovely ceremony. A lot of work and effort is done by our schools and the central office staff. The families are invited to attend that meeting. And y'all have seen every year how crowded it is in the boardroom. And I really feel that this is a nice time for us to take our board meeting to the public and at a different venue so that we can recognize these students with their families, whoever wants to attend from their family, have a nice reception afterwards so that we can really spend some time celebrating the accomplishments of these wonderful children in our schools. Yeah, that's how that all came about. It was just kind of a brainstorm idea. And when we discussed it, we thought it was a real, Mr. Richard liked the idea as well as Ms. David. And then he said, well, we'll have to, look and see if it's available. And he did the legwork to see about securing the facility, the Rain Civic Center. It's a beautiful facility. And I really like the opportunity for us to make that connection, for us going out into the community and bringing what we do best, which is our children. So I would hope that y'all would approve this tonight. Is there any other discussion? Is there any questions or comments from people from the audience? So do you have any comments, Mr. Richard? Okay.
Covered it all.
All right. So all in favor of conducting our regular session meeting of the April 3rd, 2023 at the Rain Civic Center in Rain, Louisiana, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposition? No opposition, so the motion carries. Thank you. I think it's going to be a really nice evening.
I'd like to thank Mr. Robichaud, the mayor, for allowing us to do this at no cost, and gonna have it all set up, and said he'd help us with whatever we needed.
They always do. I think they always do. We've done things there before. Okay, moving on to item 3.1. Consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding approval to add a water well on Section 16, Township 7 South, Range 1, West Acadia Parish. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
It's been moved by Mr. Seymour. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
It's been seconded by Ms. Miller. Is there any discussion by the board members? Any questions or comments from the audience? All in favor of approving the recommendation made by Budget and Finance Committee to add the water well on Section 16, Township 7 South, Range 1, West Acadia Parish, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No opposition, motion carries. Subject 3.2. Consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the approval of budget revision from Head Start operations budget. Do I have a motion?
I so move that the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding approval of a budget revised for Head Start operation budget.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion? My board members? Any questions or comments from the audience? Do you have anything you'd like to comment, Mr. Richard? Okay. That being said, all in favor of approving the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation to approve the budget revisions for Head Start's operations budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. There were any nays? No. Motion carries. Moving on to item 3.3, consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the approval of Head Start's request for the extension of expiring awards for budget period April 4th, 2021 to March 31st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I move that the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding approval of Head Start requests for extending of expiring awards for budget period for 1/21/3/31/23.
And I'll second that. Is there any discussion by board members? Any questions or comments from the audience? So all in favor of approving the recommendation made by the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the approval of Head Start's request for the extension of the expiring awards for the budget period April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2023, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say nay. Motion carries. Item 3.4, consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the 2022-2023 mid-year budget revisions. Do I have a motion?
I move that we consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the 2022-2023 mid-year budget revisions.
It's been seconded by Mr. Ike Richard. Is there any discussion? I think we covered everything in committee. Any questions or comments from the audience? So we will vote, all in favor of the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee for regarding the 2022-2023 mid-year budget revisions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No opposition, motion carries. Moving to item 3.5. Consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the approval to advertise and seek bids on hunting lease on 142 acres of Section 16, Township 7 South, Range 1, southeast of Eunice in Acadia Parish. Do I have a motion?
Consider the recommendation of the Budget Finance Committee on the hunting lease of 147 acres.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded, it has been moved by Mr. Higginbottom and seconded by Mr. Seymour. Is there any discussion by board members? Questions or comments? Questions or comments from the audience? I think we were made aware of all of the, this was discussed in committee, so I believe we are ready to vote. So all in favor of approving to advertise and seek bids on the hunting lease on 142 acres of Section 16, Township 7 South, Range 1, southeast of Eunice in Acadia Parish, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, please say nay. Motion carries. Item 3.6. Consider the recommendation of the Personnel, Insurance, and Curriculum Committee regarding the travel request from Church Point Middle School Science Club to visit NASA Space Center in Houston, Texas on May 10th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to consider the recommendation of the Personnel Insurance Curriculum Committee regarding the request of Church Point Middle School Science Club to visit NASA in Houston, Texas, May 10th, 2023.
It's been moved by Mr. Higginbottom and seconded by Mr. Reshort to approve the travel request made by Church Point Middle School Science Club to visit NASA. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Is there any questions or comments from the audience? No, we were really pleased to see that these children were working so hard. Their teacher came and talked about what they were doing to do that. So all in favor of approving their request, their travel request for Church Point Middle School Science Club to visit NASA Space Center in Houston, Texas on May 10th, 2023, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, please say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to our consent items. 4.1, we've received assignments and changes to personnel. 4.2, receive sales tax report. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I have a few things that I would like to just say in closing comments. There's been a
I
motion.
need a second.
I moved by Mr. Jones. I need a second.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Higginbottom. Is there any I just would like to comment that I'd like to make a few comments before we leave. Okay. So I'll just make these comments before we vote on adjournment. There are some things that has happened in our school system that I think we need to talk about that are tooting our horn, just sharing with the public some accomplishments of our school system and people who are here to serve and work here. First off, this past Saturday, they had the youth summit for the first time since the pandemic. It was last held in 2019. And the theme of this event will encourage youth from Crowley, but all over Acadia Parish to participate. And the theme was, what does good look like? And participating in that program were people from the community and people outside of the community. They had Saints cheerleaders there. They had, is it St. Augustine High School band that marched. They had a parade. It was an amazing event. I do want to comment that one of our board members was honored to serve as one of the grand marshals in the parade. And she was also one of the keynote speakers for the event after the parade in the Crowley Middle School gym, and that's Ms. Jamesetta David. So I just want to congratulate Ms. David on that event and representing the board and our school system. I know that it was well done. I also want to comment on our state school board conference that we attended last week in Lake Charles. All board members attended. During this conference, we were provided training that's essential and required by board members. We also were able to attend informative training sessions, going from board retreats to board training, planning, safety, a lot of things. One of the things that we were privileged to see was a keynote speaker, a man named Jamie Vollmer. We were also received a book and some really good information from him about why public schools can't do it alone. They need to have their community stand behind them and be involved in our schools. And part of that is what we do as board members. And some of our board members were recognized at this state conference for achievements that they have done. One of our board members, Mr. Delo Abear, was sworn in as a board member of the School Board Association board. He was sworn in at the session on Thursday. Also recognized for a service as a state president was Mr. James Higginbottom. And while attending, he was also made grandparent to new twins. And so that was a great accomplishment for him and his family. Also, being recognized as distinguished board members was Mr. Richard, Mr. Jones, and myself. What's that?
I was just talking about it.
Oh, you were commenting about him. So I want you to know that our board members are working really hard to represent our community, but also to go and learn more of what we can bring back to our community. And just thank you for letting me share that tonight. I wanted to share that. So all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for your attendance this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Beckett.